Greetings, poetry fans. My name is Cassie Macdonald. I'm a resident of Waterfront South, Camden, the hearthkeeper of Bridget's house, and the program coordinator at Camden Fireworks Art Gallery. Just first want to thank Warren Longmire and everyone at the Nick Virgilio Haiku Association for inviting me to take you for a walk today to some of my favorite places in South Camden. We are at this moment, or I am, and you are virtually, in the Poets Walk, so I thought the most fitting place to begin our poetry walk. This space, which used to be an empty lot, was transformed into what you see now, really on the inspiration of a man who arrived out of nowhere unannounced. And that man's name was Brendan Kilty. Brendan Kilty was a Dubliner who was a big fan of James Joyce. And it came to his attention that one of the houses that Joyce had lived in Dublin had been, or was being razed. So he raced over and rescued some of the bricks from this historic house. Not sure at first what he was going to do with them, but he knew he needed to save something of this important writer's presence in the city. It happens within a couple of years he found himself in Philadelphia at the Bloomsday celebration at the Rosenbach Museum and Library. And someone said to him, you know, while you're this close, you really should take a ride over to Camden, New Jersey and meet Michael Doyle. So that's what he did. And I happened to be in the rectory kitchen on the day that Brendan walked into the rectory and met us all, and he told us about this project that he was doing with the bricks, and they were called Seats of Wisdom. Seats of Learning, Seats of Learning, which I think is a phrase right out of Ulysses. So Brendan decided, after taking a walk around our neighborhood and seeing all of the dynamic things that were happening here, that Camden should be the next site, the placement for a brick and a seat of learning. So actually what you see right here in the center of this millstone is the famous brick. And with the help of the Heart of Camden and lots of donors who chose their favorite writer's name to be inscribed in one of these bricks, this space was created. And it continues as a space for creativity, and in fact we have hosted several Bloomsday and Camden celebrations here in this space to keep that tradition going. And more recently, the 676 poetry event with the help of Watu Moja. So it's our hope that this will continue to grow as a seat of learning and creativity for the community. And what I enjoy about doing what we're doing now is that we get a moment to reflect on how poetry lives in the world. And I know the Haiku Association has been doing a wonderful job with their Haiku in Action, of bringing poetry into life. It's not something that sits aside from life, it's something that's in life. Nick Virgilio defined haiku as a record of a moment. And that's a really powerful idea, that you can record a moment and really preserve something that was remarkable about what might otherwise have been seen as an ordinary moment. Who would have imagined that a brick that started out in Dublin would end up in Camden, New Jersey, and continuing the story into the future? So I think my reflection here is how the surprises that travel creates, both what we find when we travel and what we find when we welcome the traveler, someone like Brendan, who brought us a whole other world into our community, and who went home with a whole new vision of what Camden is. So I hope when travel becomes a little bit easier, that many of you will come and visit the Poets Walk and all of the other places that nurture the arts in South Camden. So let's take a little walk.
All right.
So one of the pioneers of the arts in this neighborhood was the South Camden Theater Company, which you can see here on the corner. So, obviously closed right now, as all theaters are, but again, we hope before long we'll be welcoming people back into this wonderful 99-seat theater. It was just celebrated the 10th anniversary in this building, the 15th anniversary as a theater company.
Have you seen any shows in here, Cassie?
I have lots of shows. In fact, I saw shows in the church basement before the theater had a home here on the corner. And they've done wonderful productions. In the summertime, they open up the theater to show movies, free movies for the kids. And, you know, it's anyone who's run an arts nonprofit knows that surviving that long is already a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
And we know that they've got a lot of more great shows in their future. Yeah. So I think we'll go across a little bit across the street here. I just want to show you the entrance to the park.
How long have you lived in the neighborhood?
12 years. 2008. I moved in with my dog Frankie, who I'm just about to tell you a story about. The two of us sort of camped on the floor until we got the house sort of fixed up, and we dedicated our house in February of 2008. So we'll hear a little more about that later because we're actually going to the house. For people who live in the city, their experience of nature is often in parks, public parks. So we know that traditional haiku is nature poetry. So it's really about encounters with the natural world and being present to what's happening in the natural world. And being able to experience that presence of mind is, it's not a luxury, it's actually something that we really need, particularly at this time, to be centered in our own wisdom and in our relationship with the earth. So, as I mentioned, my dog Frankie, who moved in with me when I came to Camden in 2008, this was our favorite place. And anyone who's had a dog or any animal friend will know how an animal brings you into the world in a different way and really gives you new eyes for the world. They're living a little lower to the ground than we are, and they're experiencing all those interesting smells and sights. And I know many times Frankie brought me to an awareness that I wouldn't have otherwise had without her. So this park has the unmelodious name of Liney Ditch, but it's really a wonderful space, and it's used well by the community. And often before dark, we would be found roaming here, disturbing the rabbits and the geese. Those are really special times. And I'm going to pause here to share a poem with you. So there's a form of poetry called haibun. Usually haibun is some prose, which is followed by one or more haiku. So this isn't exactly technically a haibun, but what I know about Western poets is we're always bending the rules. So this is why American haiku is so different from traditional Japanese haiku. So this is art evolving before your eyes. And this poem, a little unseasonable, but we are coming into the cold season, is called Winter Walk, and it's dedicated to Frankie, who co-wrote it with me. Mounds of snow under lamplight resembled nothing more than the fake snow draped into department store windows. It is so enchanting here. So cheap there. My tracks, twin dark stripes, jag across the park, the trail of a demented cross-country skier. Yours, intent on a scent, or a trick of light, or a discarded bag, punctuate the snow with confidence. You have, after all, the Himalayas in your blood. Joy of snow. Is there a Tibetan word for that? I remember the scene at the end of The Big Sleep, when Lauren Bacall says to Humphrey Bogart in her noir, don't care voice, I guess I love you. The line has meringued peaks in it, while the car moves impossibly against a grainy backdrop, because it is not moving at all. It could sit there forever, gripping the steering wheel, blowing blue smoke. You can tell it's blue, even in black and white, and never flee any further from the scene of the crime, and never reach the point where he pulls over and gives her the embrace, the bruising kiss she craves and fears. Our tracks follow us. We cannot escape them, no matter how we run. Medallion of moon hanging silent, rising without seeming to move. So we lost Frankie in 2015, and just recently her sister, her littermate, also passed over. So I like thinking of the two of them reunited and playing in the liney ditches above. So we'll cross kitty corner here. And head over to Stone Circle.
Sure y'all are watching this, but hopefully you're coming upon a better future than we're in right now.
Poetry is good citizenship. So you might have noticed I have a little hitch in my giddy up, as they say, and slows me down a little, which I appreciate as a benefit. Like haiku, which I think slows us down a bit. It's just easy to miss a lot when you're zooming around or zooming online. I remember years ago when we were hosting a group of peace walkers. They were walking from their Peace Pagoda in Massachusetts all the way to New York. And we stopped over in Camden, which they did every year. They loved Camden. And I was to accompany them across the Ben Franklin Bridge. But I was worried I would delay them in meeting their party across the river. So I said to the abbot of the community who was with us, Katoshan, I said, I'd like to walk with you, but I don't want to hold you up, so let me know if you'd rather I stay behind. And he paused and he said, if you are the slowest, go in front. That kind of care is really something to treasure. People who will wait with you, will stay with you, see what you see. And I think coming to Camden was, for me, an adventure in seeing what others see and living what they live. We're about to meet a poet who has long been one of my favorites, not only for his poems, but for his witness for peace. William Stafford is a conscientious objector, and he spent time in a work camp, serving time there because he refused to serve in the war. When he was a child, he came home from school and his mother asked him, Billy, how was your day? And he said, well, there was a black boy at school and the other kids were surrounding him and making fun of him. And she said, well, what did you do? And he said, I went and stood by him. He didn't have to fight, he didn't have to run away, but he could stand by. I think writing is a way to find your courage. Because for me, I have to be truthful when I write. And the more time I spend in that truth, I think the easier it is to bring it into the rest of my life. We're walking down 4th Street. If we continued on this, we would end up all the way in downtown Camden. But we're not going to do that. certainly seen the neighborhood, and particularly this block, change a lot. So one of the things I really enjoyed about coming to Camden was that it was a place where there was a lot of space for me to expand as an artist. There were places that were waiting to be made more beautiful. There were places that were open, and people weren't paying a lot of attention. So one of the projects we started at Bridget's house was what we call guerrilla poetry. So we would identify a space that was boarded up or abandoned or neglected in some way, and we would get some friends together and choose a poem, and we would paint it there. Done, I would say, a couple dozen of them over the years. They're not all there anymore, because a lot of those spaces either were restored or taken down altogether. But this building actually featured 2 poems at one time before it was renovated. And this was written by one of our neighbors who was living on 4th Street at the time, Jim Holmes. And it was right about there. A bird lying in trembling hands while the sun rises. Wake up call. And Linda Delengowski did the art, my partner in guerrilla poetry. Many of the murals featured her wonderful artistry. And this is the other. It came from W.S. Merwin. I travel on and on until there is only you, my homeland and morning. Late I came to the joy of this. Whatever I have is yours. Those early years, 2009, 2010, when we started taking on this park. Some of my neighbors and I got together and we repaired and painted the fence. And then I worked with the children from Sacred Heart School to create the peace pole. It says, let peace prevail on earth in 4 different languages. Later, Michael Doyle prevailed on his friend Joe Balzano to bring some really big rocks and place them. Kind of gives it that fairy circle feeling. So for International Peace Day in 2013, we got permission from our neighbors to paint this poem on the side of their shed. This is the field where the battle did not happen, where the unknown soldier did not die. This is the field where grass joined hands, where no monument stands. It's like without any sound. Conveys very profound ideas, and children are capable of receiving profound ideas. So we read the poem. Great positive. When I asked the children what do they think, there was a boy named Victor who raised his hand and said, I think it means sometimes the best way to take care of something is to leave it alone. Lesson over. So Victor was the same one who was able to recite by heart Humphreys' poem that used to be painted on the wall across the street from the school. And that was a great affirmation for me that when we put art, poetry, music out into the world, we don't always know who it's reaching, but it's reaching someone. And there's always going to be those wonderful ripples in ways we can't calculate or predict. But thankfully, I got that little plastics back that one child had absorbed the message which was, after all this time, the sun says to the earth, see what happens with a love like that? I want to reach for that message. Everyone walks on the way to school to know that love like that exists. So that's why we do guerrilla poetry, even though it's not always lasting. It's not lasting in the physical realm, but I think it's lasting in the minds and hearts of people who read it. They may not have a poetry book in their house, but they'll have word on the street that they can read and even help read. People sometimes help paint the murals if they had been walking by when we were working. Sometimes they brought their own poetry that they wanted to see on the wall. So it's been a very gratifying experience, bringing the poetry out and watching it blossom. We're going to walk across the street and see where all this stuff started. I do want to take a moment to give a shout out to my good friend Tom Martin of the Camden County Pop-Up Library, who has launched this amazing movement of book arcs in the city of Camden. There's now more than 30 of these scattered around the city. So I'm a proud archist, as we're called, and I keep the arc full, and I tell you what, a lot of books are going out. They're coming in too, so that's really encouraging. Just sit on the porch. This is So this is the famous place, Bridget's house. As I mentioned earlier, it was really as an artist that I was attracted to this community. And it was also as a peacemaker. So it was here that I connected with a wonderful community of people who were concerned with peace in the world and peace in this community. That was the Sacred Heart Peace community. We were doing a lot of war resistance work at the time, but also aware that there was a war on the street. So we were looking for a way to connect the cause of international peace with the cause of violence in the street. And I was also sort of, getting hooked by this neighborhood. So I did speak with the pastor of the church, Michael Doyle, explained to him that this community was looking for a house where we could meet and do our programs, educational programs, outreach in the neighborhood, but also a place where we could nurture the arts, writing in particular, poetry in particular, and I'd like to live in it. So we were in the rectory at the time. Michael Doyle led me out the back door of the rectory and down an alleyway, and he pointed at the back door of this house and he said, "There's your house." Had been recently vacated and was waiting for its next occupant. So together with the peace community and those members and a lot of other helpful people, we did some work, and I moved in 2008. And countless wonderful things have happened here, both in the realm of peacemaking, poetry, stories, art, hospitality. And really what's at the center of it is the fire. The house is named for Bridget because Bridget is the patron of poets, also of blacksmiths and people who use fire for transformation. And also a patron of the hearth fire, which is really about the welcome. So, see, we've got plenty of firework for the winter. Well back. And lighting the fire isn't just about creating physical warmth, it's really about creating the heartfelt welcome that creates a family out of friends. So I've made a lot of fires, and it's always a sacred act, starting a fire. And I do have a poem about that I'd like to share.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. It's called To Make a Fire. Sometimes sadly, a sleeve of flame wraps the wood. Sometimes it is a throbbing within, enough to burn. Other times a single strand, a white jet, streams from a crease in the log. It can moan, squeal, pop, sigh, and at times, light like a tiny horde moves a scattered wave over the surface. Or single spies, pinpricked stars flare and fade, the end of the day. Before all of that, you prepare the bed, sweeping old ashes out. Wads of paper and sticks, old lath, if you can get it, is the best. It goes up like the bonfires of May, releasing the trapped sunlight. Your grandmother's mother did the same, at night smoring the fire, mornings uncovering embers, building today's fire from yesterday. You can go for teepee style or Lincoln log square, as long as they have space and touch. You can't build a fire with one log. The artist said, the purpose of death is to release love. Maybe she meant this, the burning, the light. So, God willing, many more years here of poetry and art, peacemaking. Our motto, which you see on the sign there, Ashkuna Kela Mori Medina. We live in the shelter of each other. Something particularly important to remember now when we're sheltering in place, that we're still together. Wishing you blessings in all your homes. Hope you write something today, anything, to connect with your own heart and your hearth and those you love and your community.